The universe is vast. So vast that even light, the fastest thing we know, takes billions of years to cross it. And yet, something or someone just crossed into our solar system. It's been called 3I Atlas, a name that, for now, hides more questions than answers. It all began quietly, without headlines, without panic. A small blip appeared in the data stream from one of NASA's deep sky monitoring programs. An object moving too fast, from a direction where no known comet or asteroid should come. At first, scientists thought it was another interstellar visitor like Oumuamua, that strange elongated rock detected in 2017. But this time, something was different, because 3I Atlas didn't behave like a rock. It stopped. Telescopes from Hawaii, Chile, and Spain all confirmed the same impossible thing. The object's trajectory had flattened. Its velocity, constant for weeks, dropped by nearly 20%. Objects in space don't just slow down without a reason. Unless they are under control, NASA's early reports used words like anomaly, data uncertainty, or instrument error. But the raw readings told another story. A source of light, steady and artificial, was being emitted from its surface. One scientist, speaking off record, said, "It looks like a metallic reflection, but it's moving in ways that don't fit any natural pattern." For days, the public didn't know. Inside NASA's internal network, engineers and astrophysicists debated what they were seeing. Some claimed it was just a comet shedding gas unevenly. Others insisted there was no coma, no tail, no trace of vapor or dust, just a silent geometric body turning slowly in the void. Then came the second anomaly. 3 distinct radio telescopes, one in the Canary Islands, one in South Africa, and one in New Mexico, detected a weak, rhythmic pulse. Not random noise. A pattern. The pulse repeated every 16 hours. Too regular to be natural. Too weak to be human-made. NASA remained silent. But European Space Agency technicians leaked fragments of the data. Spectral analysis showed something chilling. The pulses came from hydrogen frequencies, deliberately modulated like a code. As the story began to spread across online forums and obscure astronomy blogs, NASA finally released a statement. Object 3I, Atlas, appears to be of interstellar origin. Current data is insufficient to determine its composition or structure. That was all. 2 sentences, no images, no follow-up. But satellite operators noticed something strange that same week. When telescopes pointed at Atlas, their guidance systems suffered interference. A faint static, like a whisper through space, flooded their receivers. Even the Hubble Space Telescope logged unexplained magnetic fluctuations while aligning toward the object. And yet, 3I Atlas remained silent to our instruments, except for that pulse. Every 16 hours, precise, constant, almost like a heartbeat. At this point, some scientists compared it to Oumuamua, arguing that maybe both objects were related. But the resemblance ended there. Unlike Oumuamua, Atlas emitted infrared radiation, meaning it wasn't cold. It was warm. Something inside it was generating heat. If it's rotating perfectly, said Dr. Eliza Monroe from Caltech. Too perfectly. That's not how nature works. As more data came in, the object's estimated shape changed. It wasn't a rock. It was almost cylindrical, about 400 meters long, with reflective panels aligned like scales. And on March 31st, its light signature shifted. Suddenly, the object brightened, then dimmed as if turning toward the sun. News outlets avoided the topic. Official astronomy papers refused to publish the preliminary findings. But amateur astronomers across the world kept tracking Atlas, and that's when things got even stranger. Between March 31st and April 2nd, multiple observers reported the same thing. The object was no longer where it should be. Orbital predictions failed. NASA's own Jet Propulsion Laboratory tracking system lost its signal for almost 9 hours. When they found it again, Atlas had shifted position by more than 30,000 kilometers. Without acceleration, without propulsion, just moved. At this point, conspiracy forums exploded. Was it a malfunction? Was NASA hiding something? Or had we just witnessed the first deliberate maneuver of an interstellar craft? But beyond the theories, one fact stood clear. Something unprecedented had just happened. If it wasn't natural, then it was built, said one anonymous insider in a recorded call later leaked online. And if it was built, someone built it. The recording was deleted within hours. Accounts sharing it were suspended, but the echo remained. People started calling it the Atlas probe. As April unfolded, several observatories noticed yet another detail. When the object crossed specific sectors of the sky, faint reflections, tiny points of light, appeared around it. Some believed these were debris. Others thought satellites. Each reflection blinked in perfect sync with Atlas's pulse, 16 hours apart. Exactly. What could possibly synchronize like that across hundreds of kilometers? It behaves like a formation, said Dr. Liu, an astrophysicist from Hong Kong University. A structure, not a single object. The more they looked, the more coordinated it appeared, almost as if Atlas wasn't alone. Then, late one night in April, the pulse stopped. No signal, no reflection. Just silence. For days, astronomers waited. Telescopes scanned the region, desperate for a trace. And then, on April 14th, the signal returned stronger. The frequency had changed. Now it pulsed every 12 hours. Something or someone had modified it. The pattern carried overtones like binary sequences. One sequence, translated by independent analysts, seemed to repeat a series of numbers. 0, 3, 1, 1. Some say it was coincidence. Others think it was the object identifying itself. 3I Atlas. The intensity of the light now fluctuated rhythmically too. Every time the pulse hit, the object glowed faintly but visibly. A perfect correspondence between light and radio signal. No natural body does that, speculation soared. Was it an ancient probe, drifting for millennia until we stumbled upon it? Was it a self-repairing drone? Or was it something entirely different, a kind of living machine? The truth is, no one knows. But for the first time in human history, scientists are confronting a question they used to laugh at. Not, is there life out there? But rather, is it already here? Because as Atlas drifts through the outer edges of our solar system, our instruments keep whispering the same truth. It's still sending something. And whatever it's sending, we're not decoding it. When this story reached the European Parliament's Science Committee, an internal memo was circulated to several research agencies. It stated, further investigation of 3I Atlas is to be limited to classified channels. Translation, the public would hear nothing more. But astrophysicists are human. They talk. And some of them quietly have begun to connect the dots between 3I Atlas and something else, something detected months earlier. In December, a faint gravitational anomaly was reported near Neptune's orbit. Too small to be a planet, too concentrated to be a cloud of dust. It appeared, then vanished. Now, several models show that Atlas came from that exact region. Was it parked there, waiting, observing, charging? No one can say. But the timing is too perfect to ignore, and this is where our story begins. Because what started as a distant comet has turned into one of the most profound mysteries in human history. A mystery NASA refuses to explain, a signal no one can decode, and an object that might just be the first visitor that knows we're here. When the data from 3I Atlas reached the Deep Space Analysis Center in Pasadena, a team of linguists, code specialists, and radio engineers was assembled in secret. Their task was simple in words, but impossible in nature. Decode the pulse. They called the project Echo 12, a reference to the 12-hour interval of the signal. For days, the sequence was fed through every algorithm and decoding model known to man. It wasn't random. It wasn't human. And it wasn't repeating. The frequency changed slightly each cycle, as if adapting or learning. Some analysts believed the object was scanning our responses, adjusting its own rhythm in return. A conversation, but with whom? NASA denied Echo 12 existed. Yet, leaked documents later show that on April 19th, a high-priority communication was sent from NASA headquarters to the Pentagon's Advanced Space Command Division. The message was marked Level Omega Clearance. The subject line read, Potentially Responsive Extraterrestrial Signal Object 3I Atlas. No details were ever released. But 3 days later, every public telescope tracking the object was ordered to cease transmission logs. All images were pulled offline, and Atlas disappeared once again from public data feeds. For a week, the sky was silent. Then on April 26th, a faint reflection was picked up by the James Webb Telescope. But it wasn't a single dot. It was multiple, forming a pattern like a triangle, hovering in perfect alignment. Each point pulsed in sequence, one after another, like a message. The team at Echo 12 tried mapping the pattern. When translated into coordinates, it pointed to 3 locations in our solar system: Jupiter, Earth, and a point beyond Pluto, 3 corners of a vast geometric figure. But why? Some claimed it was a map. Others feared it was a warning. No one could agree, and yet the signal persisted, growing slightly stronger every 12 hours. It wasn't fading away like a dying transmission. It was approaching. On May 2nd, radar from the European Space Observatory recorded a microburst of radiation near Atlas's last known position. It was so brief it could have been dismissed as noise, but its spectral fingerprint matched the hydrogen code perfectly. It was a reply. Someone, or something, was responding from near Earth. That night, every satellite within geostationary orbit experienced short disruptions, lasting precisely 12 seconds. 12. The same number repeated in every part of the phenomenon. NASA said it was solar interference, but no solar flare was recorded that day. And in the raw logs, the signature of the disturbance matched 3I Atlas exactly. It was official now. Whatever was out there wasn't passive. It was interacting. Within the next 72 hours, the United States, Russia, and China all repositioned their orbital telescopes. For the first time, military satellites were aimed at the same point in space. But no one released what they found. Only a rumor survived, a blurred image shared anonymously online. It showed what appeared to be a metallic body, fractured and immense, with surfaces that looked manufactured, not natural. Some described it as a broken ring, others as a ship without symmetry. The image vanished minutes later and all copies were deleted. But by then it was too late. People had already seen it. And one question echoed everywhere. Was this an ancient artifact, drifting for millennia? Or had it just arrived? One astrophysicist from the University of Buenos Aires, Dr. Ricardo Mendez, analyzed the available readings and made a bold statement. He said, "If this structure is real, it's older than the solar system itself." The media mocked him. But the following week, the pulse shifted once again. This time it wasn't 12 hours, it was 10. And hidden inside the signal, there was something new, a spike in amplitude that resembled a digital watermark. When the data was translated to audio, it produced a faint tone, like a hum. When slowed down, that hum revealed modulation consistent with speech. Not human speech, but structured rhythm. Echo 12 played it through sound analysis software, converting amplitude to frequency maps. The result was terrifying. The waveform mirrored the human vocal range almost perfectly. Something, or someone, was shaping its signal to our biology, as if it already knew how we communicate. Dr. Karen Fields, a senior linguist from MIT, was the first to notice a recurring mathematical constant embedded in the signal's intervals, the Fibonacci sequence, nature's universal code. It appeared 17 times, always starting at different positions. Each occurrence corresponded to the timing of Earth's orbit around the Sun, as if the sender was marking time itself. The conclusion was unavoidable. Atlas wasn't sending random information. It was mapping us. By mid-May, rumors of a cover-up flooded every corner of the internet. Whistleblowers spoke of private briefings at the United Nations, closed sessions with defense officials, and strange object tracking files marked temporal origin unknown. Those words would become legendary among UFO researchers, but most scientists remained silent. Their silence, though, spoke louder than any confirmation. On May 24th, a sudden burst of radio noise hit 3 different observatories simultaneously, one in Hawaii, one in Norway, and one in Australia. For 7 minutes, all of them received a synchronized transmission identical to the Atlas frequency. When converted to visual form, the transmission displayed an array of parallel lines, repeating endlessly, then breaking into a sudden shape. A spiral. Perfect. Mathematical. Artificial. That spiral matched the rotation pattern of our galaxy. In other words, it wasn't random data. It was a signature, a declaration of origin. 3 days later, NASA held a press conference. It lasted only 4 minutes. The speaker, a calm, gray-haired scientist, said, "At this moment, we have no evidence suggesting the signal known as Atlas is of intelligent origin." Then he smiled, paused, and said, "But we are keeping our eyes on the stars." And that was it. No questions were allowed. No follow-up. No images, nothing. The world moved on. But not everyone forgot. A small team of independent researchers, calling themselves the Parallax Group, continued to monitor the faint echoes that remained. They weren't amateurs. They had access to private observatories, radio equipment, and high-level software. And what they discovered next changed everything. By layering the signal's amplitude pattern over cosmic background radiation maps, they found a correlation. Atlas's pulses were aligned with specific cold spots in the cosmic microwave background. The same cold spots that cosmologists have speculated might indicate structures older than the Big Bang itself. In other words, Atlas was communicating using the background of the universe as a medium, a cosmic carrier wave. Dr. Yara Kim, a theoretical physicist from Seoul, suggested that Atlas wasn't just transmitting across space, but across time. If her theory was correct, the signal might not even be meant for us. It could be a message from the past, or from a civilization that already ceased to exist. Her hypothesis divided the scientific community. Some dismissed it as poetic nonsense. Others found it plausible, given the object's impossible trajectory. After all, if Atlas came from beyond our galaxy, it would have traveled millions of years to reach us. What if we were merely intercepting a transmission meant for someone else, long gone? As June approached, a new development occurred. Infrared telescopes in Chile recorded a brief emission of heat from the object's surface. Temperature fluctuations matched what would happen if an internal mechanism activated. It wasn't random radiation. It was a controlled process. That same week, the pulse vanished completely. Atlas went silent for the first time since its discovery. And then, the gravitational readings around Neptune shifted again. Something massive had entered that region. Its signature resembled Atlas, but 10 times larger. The event was classified instantly. All data removed. Every telescope redirected. But not before a single blurry frame leaked online. It showed a dark object, half illuminated by the sun's reflection. Behind it, faint lines resembling structures, beams, panels, shadows, stretching kilometers long. Within hours, it was deleted. But millions had seen it. If Atlas was a probe, this was something else. A carrier, a mother, or a messenger of the same kind. Governments went silent. News channels avoided the topic. But in encrypted chat groups, leaked documents hinted at electromagnetic anomalies near the Kuiper Belt. Ships reported compass failures. Satellites rebooted without command. Something was destabilizing the field. And then, without warning, the pulse returned. Stronger, broader, and not from one point, from two. 2 synchronized signals, 12 hours apart, coming from opposite directions of the solar system. Atlas wasn't alone anymore. Within days, panic began to grow behind closed doors. Astrophysicists met under total confidentiality, struggling to model what was happening. If both signals were related, the distance between them implied communication faster than light, something we still consider impossible. But the evidence was there. Every instrument recorded it. 2 pulses, perfect, mirrored. 12 hours. Always 12. Dr. Monroe from Caltech, the same scientist who had warned about Atlas's precision, gave a statement to colleagues that leaked days later. She said, "We're witnessing a technology beyond relativity. They're not traveling faster than light. They're ignoring it." Her words spread like wildfire. Theoretical physicists tried to explain it, invoking quantum tunneling, extra-dimensional bridges, or gravitational folding. But none of those explanations fit all the data. Whatever was happening, it wasn't following the rules we know. By mid-July, the pressure on the scientific community was unbearable. Leaked memos from the United Nations Office for Outer Space Affairs confirmed that an emergency summit had been held in Geneva. Representatives from 14 countries attended in complete secrecy. Their objective was simple: decide whether to respond. For weeks, the question had been debated in private channels. If these signals were a form of communication, should humanity answer? And if we did, what would we say? Dr. Monroe argued against it. Her words, later declassified, were clear. You never speak first to something whose intentions you don't understand. But political pressure overruled caution. On July 22nd, a coded transmission was prepared. It was a sequence of hydrogen frequencies, carefully modulated to mimic Atlas's original pattern. The message contained only one number, 12. It was humanity's first deliberate reply to something beyond Earth. The signal was broadcast simultaneously from 3 locations: the Arecibo Observatory in Puerto Rico, the Allen Telescope Array in California, and the Parkes Observatory in Australia. All of them pointed toward the region where Atlas had last been seen. And then they waited. For the first 12 hours, nothing happened. Then, at precisely the 13th hour, every deep space radar across the planet registered a single pulse. Not from the direction of Atlas, from above the Earth itself. The pulse descended through the upper atmosphere like a ripple. Satellites blinked out one by one. Communication networks faltered. Then, silence. It lasted exactly 12 minutes. When systems came back online, the world had changed. Over Antarctica, weather satellites recorded a massive electromagnetic distortion, a halo-shaped field spanning nearly 1,000 kilometers. At its center, something dark, smooth, and perfectly symmetrical hovered beyond the edge of visibility. Infrared sensors described it as cold, completely cold, like a void. The structure stayed there for 21 minutes, then vanished without acceleration. Every radar lost it simultaneously. Not disappeared, gone. That night, the Atlas signal returned, but it wasn't the same. It was louder, sharper, and encoded with new data. When analysts converted the waveform into visual representation, they saw something they couldn't explain. It was Earth, a topographic projection of our planet perfectly detailed, including cloud patterns from that very day. The message was clear. They had scanned us. Dr. Fields was among the first to realize the full implication. She wrote in her notes, later found years after her disappearance, "They are not answering our question. They are showing that they already know who asked." Within 48 hours, global monitoring systems began picking up secondary transmissions, echoes of the Atlas pulse rebounding from unknown origins. Each echo carried slightly altered data, as if repeating and refining the same message. To some, it looked like a handshake protocol. To others, a preparation. Then came the error. On July 29th, an automated relay satellite in low Earth orbit, still affected by residual interference, rebroadcast a corrupted fragment of the signal. The corrupted version inverted part of the frequency range, transforming the message into an aggressive burst of noise. No one noticed immediately, but Atlas did. Within seconds of the accidental transmission, all monitoring equipment overloaded with simultaneous feedback. Every frequency that had been silent for weeks lit up with the same pattern. 12 spikes, then one long, continuous tone. The tone lasted 8 minutes. During that time, magnetic compasses across the planet deviated slightly east. In some regions, electrical grids fluctuated. Airplanes reported momentary navigation failures. And deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, hydroacoustic sensors detected something moving, massive, slow, deliberate. A new signal emerged from the southern hemisphere, but this time it wasn't a pulse. It was continuous, like a carrier wave. Hidden within it were harmonics resembling human speech patterns, yet distorted beyond recognition. A voice without language, a presence without origin. By August 1st, the transmission had ceased again and Atlas vanished from all optical range. No telescope on Earth could find it. Only a faint radiation signature remained, orbiting far beyond Neptune like an echo. In the aftermath, governments issued denials. NASA released a statement saying the Atlas data had been reclassified for national security purposes. Public access to all deep space archives was temporarily suspended, and the world turned its eyes elsewhere. But the silence spoke louder than the truth. Independent observatories, still recording quietly in the background, noticed one last anomaly. A repeating code hidden within the cosmic microwave background. It wasn't strong. It wasn't clear. But it was there. The same frequency. The same 12-beat rhythm, echoing from every direction at once. For weeks, experts argued whether it was an after effect of the transmission or something entirely different. But one mathematician from the University of Geneva noticed something the others missed. The timing of the global pulse matched the exact duration of a human heartbeat multiplied by 1 million. Coincidence, perhaps, or something else. And then the Atlas archives went dark. Every online record, every data mirror, every document tied to the project was quietly erased from the public web, as if none of it had ever happened. Yet a handful of backup files survived. Among them, a handwritten note by an unnamed engineer, dated August 9th, 2 days before the official closure of Echo 12. It read, "We tried to speak with the sky. The sky answered. And now it knows our voice." Months passed. The story faded into obscurity. Governments changed, wars came and went, and humanity returned to its daily noise. But far beyond the orbit of Pluto, sensors from the Voyager probes continued to send back faint readings. Tiny fluctuations, regular and rhythmic. Always 12. When plotted across time, the pulses formed a pattern unlike any natural signal. They converged toward a single point in the cosmos. A region with no stars, no galaxies, no light. A void. And inside that void, for a fraction of a second, Voyager 2 captured something. A reflection, smooth, metallic, spinning slowly. Then gone. The file was marked as corrupted. But when enhanced, the reflection appeared to resemble a structure. Not random, not chaotic. And on its surface, faintly etched into the metal, were symbols. 12 parallel lines. Perhaps it was nothing. Perhaps it was everything. No one truly knows what Atlas was, or if it ever existed. But even now, decades later, when astronomers point their antennas to the deep frequencies of space, they still hear the faint, steady rhythm of a pulse. It repeats like a memory of the universe itself. 12 beats. Pause. 12 beats again. Some call it the cosmic heartbeat. Others call it a warning. But the few who worked on Project Echo 12 know what it really is. It's not a message to us. It's a reminder that something once looked our way, and for a brief moment in eternity, it noticed we were here. The truth was never meant to be hidden, only delayed. And someday when we listen again, Atlas will answer.